Hi guys, I hope you're all well. I just thought I'd take you through a few things about looking after your seedlings. If you haven't seen my previous video on how to plant seeds, then you may want to have a look at that before having a look at this video. These are the seedlings I planted about 2.5 weeks ago, and they're all looking really strong. It's really important to have strong seedlings. Without good strong seedlings, you're not going to have a good chance of having strong plants. Now, if you remember, the reason we plant these seeds in propagation trays like this is so that we can take good care of them. So the first few weeks are really critical for the plants, and it's much easier to look after them here. If you have a storm coming through, you can just take your seedlings indoors, for example, or you can cover them at night if the temperatures drop below 10 degrees. So that's why we do it like this, and then we will just transplant them into the garden or into your balcony when they are ready. So just a few tips on how to grow these seedlings into nice robust little plants. The first thing is your seedlings need a lot of sunshine, so it's really important to give them at least 3 or 4 hours of good sun during the day, as much as possible. Especially if you're indoors, you will often find the plants, if they don't get enough sun, they get quite thin and leggy, and you don't want that. You want the plants to be kind of short and stocky. So get them lots of sun, but at the same time you don't want them to overheat. So it's a careful balance of the right amount of moisture in the soil and the right amount of sun. Now you want to water them at least daily, sometimes maybe twice a day. And the way I check for the right level of moisture is just looking at the soil here, and as soon as you start to see a bit of dry bits, you know that you'll have to water it pretty soon. You can also just dig a little bit on the side and just feel in there, and you should feel the moisture straight away. And if it's dry, then you definitely need to water it pretty quickly. You don't want to overwater them either, because if they get waterlogged, then the roots can start to rot. Now some of these trays, they do have, like this one here, they do have holes on the bottom so excess water can drain out, but the ones I have in here, they don't, so I just have to be extra careful. Now when your plants are really still young, let's say a week and a half, you do need to be careful to not expose them to too much wind. They are quite delicate, so you might want to just put on the covers or take them indoors until they're a bit larger, a bit stronger. So let's look at this plant over here, for example. This one here is kale. Now the next thing I need to do is to thin these plants out. So if you look in here, you'll see that there are 2 plants. That's because I planted 2 seeds. So I need to now get rid of one to allow the other one to grow well. So I'm trying to decide here which one is the stronger one, and the easiest way is just to take a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to clip the one off on the left hand side, and we'll try and pry that off carefully without damaging the other one, which is easier said than done. And this can go straight into your salad, or even better, straight into your mouth. Now if you look at this one, you can see these leaves here. They are the first leaves that come through. They're called the seed leaves. There is a biological name for them, which I forget, and the next leaves are the adult leaves, which are these ones here, and you can actually see in between the next adult leaves are coming through very shortly. So we've got 2 strong adult leaves here. Now the best time to transplant these into the garden, most people say, is when the plant has between 4 to 6 adult leaves. So a lot of these plants here have got their 3rd adult leaf coming up. So I'd say in another 2 days, 3 days tops, I should be transplanting these into the garden. Now before you transplant your seedlings into the garden, you do want to harden them off a little bit. So up to now you've been looking after them really carefully. Now you want to make them a little bit rough and tough. So you basically expose them to normal outdoor conditions for increasing durations over a few days. So you might, for example, stop putting the lids on at night, and you might bring them outdoors for a few more hours, let them feel the wind, and that's going to get them stronger. And perhaps the last day you just leave them completely outdoors without any protection, and then you can transplant them the day after. So the key here is to really minimize trauma and shock to the plants, because if they get traumatized, they will just go to seed, and you don't want that. The last thing I should mention as well is you will often see your plants kind of leaning to one side, like these beetroots here, and that's because they are tracking the sun. So in this case the sun's coming from the left hand side here. So all I'm going to do is spin them around, and by tomorrow they'll be sort of leaning back towards the middle again. So just spin your plants around every day or 2 days, just watch them, see how they behave, and act accordingly. So I hope that was helpful for you. This is the little kale that I pulled out earlier. That's how you treat that. So in the next video we'll show you how to transplant one of these little seedlings into a trough in your balcony.